Welcome to Coffee with Dan. This morning, I have Mr. Damitha Kumarasinghe, Director General of Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka. He holds a BSc in Engineering from University of Peradeniya and MBA from University of Colombo. This morning, we are talking about the regulatory framework and policy on energy security and the work of Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka as a regulator. Turning to our discussion, Damitha, when it comes to power and electricity, we are very concerned about the cost. As the economic regulator for electricity industry, what is the strategy or plans that have been implemented to control this cost of electricity?
Yeah, actually, economic regulation is one of the major concerns of consumers as well as utilities. So through this regulation, the utilities should be able to recover their efficient cost. And also consumers should only be charged on the efficient cost of service delivery. So for that, the Commission has introduced a very transparent tariff methodology. And with that, we have introduced a regulatory accounting system, which is basically a cost accounting system to ensure that the costs that are passed to the consumers are only the efficient costs that should incur to deliver the service. That's where the fairness comes in. And then also we have introduced an auditing mechanism for energy purchases. Now the 80% of the cost of this service and the product is on the energy production. So you have so many energy generators, and the transmission licensee or CEB purchases energy from all these generators on real time. So you need to ensure that they procure energy in an efficient and least cost manner. So for that you need a transparent auditing process, so which we have introduced now. And also with that we also have come out with the least cost generation plan, transmission plan and distribution plan. So all the generation should be done according to the least cost plan. Transmission should be done according to that. The distribution should be done according to that. So with this planning process, we introduce the efficient allocation of resources for the sector. So through these mechanisms, and many other are there, through these important mechanisms, we ensure only the efficient cost of this industry is incurred by the utilities, and only the efficient cost would be passed on to the consumers.
Now, Damitha, you mentioned about this tariff methodology. What are the main determinants in setting up the price or cost of electricity in that regards?
Yeah, actually, as I said, the main cost driver in electricity industry is the generation cost, which is about 75 to 80% of the total cost. So the tariff methodology is based upon three aspects. One is the generation cost, where the auditing aspects, the generation planning aspects, all those things are there, and also the regulatory accounting. And then you have the transmission part of the system, where you transmit energy through wires at high voltage. So you have to regulate the wire portion of that aspect. And then you have the distribution, where you deliver electricity to your premises, the consumer premises, which is associated with the wire aspect as well as other service aspect, like metering, billing, so on and so forth, attending to repairs, all those things. So all those costs should be regulated, and those things are also taken into account in this tariff methodology. So it's a very comprehensive tariff methodology encompassing all the costs. And through the regulatory accounting system, the dispatch auditing or the generation procurement auditing, we ensure that only the efficient cost is taken into account when determining the tariff.
Yes, I also understand that there is a mechanism where, especially concerning the solar power, the household in Sri Lanka can give back to the national grid. And how does then the cost of electricity vary when you decide on the individual household billing?
No, actually for solar rooftops there are three mechanisms. One is that you use the energy produced for your own usage and give it to the grid as a banking facility. Then you use that whatever is given to the grid at a time where you don't produce energy. That is one aspect. The second aspect is that you use for your internal use part of the energy and you sell the other part to the national grid. And for that, the Ceylon Electricity Board pays 22 rupees per kilowatt hour for the first 7 years and 15.50 for the balance 13 years. And the third mechanism is you sell everything what you produce to the grid. You don't use it internally, but you sell it. So for that also the CEB pays the same amount like 22 and 15 and a half. So now the system has been broadened so that there will be a choice for all the consumers to choose what is best for them to produce energy and be an energy producer in themselves.
Now, the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka being the regulator in this sector, I'm sure that you do have a long-term generation plan. What was the process, or what is the process that you follow in approving this long-term generation plan?
Yeah, actually, long-term generation plan is one of the key elements, one of the key tools that we use as used to ensure that efficient allocation of resources into the sector and to make sure that only the efficient cost is passed to the consumers. So the generation plan is prepared by Ceylon Electricity Board, which holds the transmission license. Then the Public Utilities Commission, once we receive that plan, the commission goes through two public consultations, one on the input data for the plan, the second one on the plan itself emanating out of the input data. So this time also and previously also we have done comprehensive public consultations on the generation plan where various experts, engineering experts, economists, environmentalists, general public, government institutions all have expressed their views on the generation plan. Then commission takes those views as well into consideration and do the commission studies also. Then only commission determines the take a decision on the generation plan. So it's a very transparent process, very fair process.
When it comes to generation of electricity, we know our country uses different types of methods, from hydropower to coal to solar to petroleum and maybe other areas as well. Now, considering all these factors as a mixed process, what is the energy mix for the future of this country?
Yeah, actually this year's commission's decision is to go for 60% renewable, about 15 to 20% coal and about 20 to 25% natural gas by 2030. So what we are trying to achieve is that there's a government policy to go for energy self-sufficiency. So energy self-sufficiency means whatever the resources that can be harnessed within the country should be used. So for that only we are looking at increasing the share of renewable energy as well as introducing natural gas, because natural gas is available in the Mana Basin and Petroleum Development Resource Secretariat has already announced that this gas is available and we can get the gas at a very low prices. So that's why we are trying to, or we are thinking of going to about 80% of electric energy to be produced through local resources. So that's the plan. By 2030, we want 80% of the energy through local resources, preferably 60% from renewables and about 20 to 25% from the gas from the Mana Basin, and the balance from the existing coal power plant, which produces about 15 to 20% by that time.
Does that mean that the approved long-term plan ensure these goals?
Yeah, actually there are two stages. Now this year plan and the 2019 there should be a new plan for 2020 to 2023. 38. So we have given this direction very clearly in the approval of this plan, that the next plan should take these goals into consideration.
Well, now the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka also is nominated the regulator for petroleum and water services industries in Sri Lanka, and I'm sure that you are doing some work with regard to the waste management and turning or converting the waste into energy. Tell us about the status of the regulating these industries.
Yeah, actually, Dan, now petroleum and water services are two sectors that are listed in the Public Utilities Commission Act to be regulated by the Commission. Now, the petroleum sector acts which are related to the regulating of the sector is already prepared, and now it's in the consultation process. So we hope that sector should come under the regulatory purview very soon. And also the water sector acts are now being prepared. So within the next 6 months to 1 year time frame, we expect those legislation also to be in place. And then in coming back to the waste to energy aspect, now there are few waste to energy power plants are being constructed. So with that we can test how this technology, how this conversion process will function in this country. Number one. Number two, how much of waste can be converted into energy. If this is successful, we can roll this out more, so that most of the waste that can be converted into energy. But the first phase is already started.
Another developing or advancing area is these electric vehicles that secures or preserve the green, what we are talking about now very heavily, the environmental protection. Now recently I understand you concluded a public consultation on electric vehicle charging stations around the country. When will be these decisions taken in this regard?
Yeah, actually, before coming into that, I will give a little introduction of our thinking on this. Now, most of the countries have now decided to move to electric vehicles in the future, and most of the frontline car manufacturers are also converting their production lines to electric vehicles, so that most of the vehicles that will be coming in future would be electric. And also since we are looking at very green energy production into the future, as I said, about 60% from renewable energy and the balance from the natural gas coming out from Mana by 2030, we are also thinking that the most of the cars that would be on roads by that time would run on electricity. So green energy converted into transportation would be a very attractive and nice concept as far as the country, the globe, everyone, all living beings are concerned. So for that aspect, for looking into the development of the usage of electric vehicles, whether we like it or not, it will happen. But for that development, we have to prepare the regulatory framework, we have to prepare the infrastructure for that to happen. Cars would be manufactured here and elsewhere, but we need to have the systems, regulatory as well as other systems, then the infrastructure ready to take on this. So for that we had a public consultation on regulating the charging stations for electric vehicles, because now these days we have only few charging stations and the electricity vehicle users are not being able to charge it anywhere, so it's rare here. So that's so to develop this we need to have more electric charging stations and a good framework to regulate that. For that we had a public consultation last week, and it was a very successful public consultation with the participation of vehicle manufacturers, agents, the environmentalists, other experts from various institutions. So everybody expressed their views, and with that we are thinking of coming out with a regulatory framework for this sector by middle of next year. So initially we will come out with the regulatory tools and finally the fully fledged regulatory framework by middle of next year.
With what you just said about the importance of having public consultations, I assume that the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka very much believes in this process. How effective is and how this can be used by other organizations to get involved with your commission?
No, actually, we have done many public consultations across many things, varying from converting Sri Lanka into single standard sockets outlets from electric vehicles, generation plan. Now we will be conducting another public consultation on the rooftop solar installations and Surya Bala Sangramaya, which you have raised the question before. So from these consultations, what we understand is that there's a big enthusiasm from the general public as well as experts and other stakeholders to participate and express their views. Number one. Number two, from our experience is that there are a lot of very important and good ideas expressed by these stakeholders, which we can use to develop the regulatory framework, national policy, so on and so forth. Number three, it is very important to get the public participation in the regulatory process. So regulatory process is all about addressing the needs of the public. So to get the public participation into the process is extremely important if we are to deliver the benefits to the public themselves. So with that background, I think public consultation process is something which we use more extensively in this country, so that people would be more and more comfortable in expressing their views, and the organizations and the government is comfortable in getting the views from these stakeholders, the public, and deliver the benefits to the public themselves.
So how can people get in touch with your commission? Do you have a website that connects you all by email or by postal ways?
Yeah, actually, people can contact us in many ways because we have a website. So anybody can visit the website. Everything is updated on real time in that website. Then we have the Facebook, we have the Twitter. We are in the electronic media, so anybody can get our information from those, and also participate in these consultations through website, through Facebook, through Twitter, so on and so forth. And all these consultations we telecast live through our website, Facebook also. So anybody anywhere in the world can access those the ideas expressed by the public and the live telecast. Everything is on web. So there are many ways to get to know what we do and to participate in these consultation processes.
And that would enable local as well as international ideas, new vistas coming into our think tank, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Now, in the first time during this electric vehicle charging station public consultation, we had some people participating through Skype technology from overseas to express their views on this. So those things are now developing, and we can use it to the best benefit for the nation and the people.
Now, I understand that the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka holds an energy forum tomorrow with the participation of politicians and several other experts in energy sector. And the theme is on energy security. What do you mean by this theme?
Now, energy security is something which we need to be very much concerned of. That is, we need to supply energy 24/7 to the people at the right price, at the right quantities. So the availability, the affordability aspects, all those things should taken to be account. And this discussion has not given priority previously. We were discussing about the merits among the various technologies, so on and so forth, but not energy security as a whole for the country. So with this forum, we expect very senior level public servants as well as private sector people to participate, and we want their views from the panel as well as the participants to formulate a policy advice to the government on how to address this energy security issue in future, which would be much important in future than today.
So after this particular forum, what action will the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka take to ensure the energy security in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, actually, the main aim of this forum is to get the ideas of the expert panelists as well as the participants to formulate or advise the government, which is our role, to advise the government on energy policy. So the commission is thinking of coming out with a framework for energy security as a policy guideline, so that then in future we can act within that framework to ensure energy security.
My final question to you, Damitha, is what message would you give to the general public in this country with regard to energy security?
Yeah, actually, energy security is, there are a few aspects. One is the availability of resources. So also energy security is tied up with the usage of energy. So if you have to make energy available, you have to use it also very responsibly. So what my advice to the people is that if you use the energy very responsibly without wasting, then it would add to the energy security of this country. So as individuals, I request everybody to think about this and contribute in our capacity, in personal capacity, to improve the energy security of this country through responsibly using the energy in time to come.
This morning in Coffee with Dan, I was joined by Mr. Damitha Kumarasinghe, Director General of Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka, and we talked about the regulatory framework and policy on energy security and the work of Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka as its regulator. Thank you very much, Damitha, for being here.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And we will meet tomorrow in Coffee with Dan